remember my goal is.
Hello, everybody. Thanks so much for joining. I'm Dr. Regina, and what am I going to tell you today? We're going to talk about the difference between neurodivergence and developmental disabilities. Sometimes they overlap, sometimes they're totally different. And I do see that for whoever's going to be seeing me, I think that's Instagram. That was awful close. So I'm just going to back up a little bit and just sit and have a conversation with you. A very short conversation. We're going to be in here about 10, 15 minutes, but that's plenty of time for me to talk about the differences. So we used to talk a lot about developmental disabilities, and it is National Developmental Disabilities Month. However, the newer term that you hear all the time is neurodivergence. Now, what's the difference? Developmental disabilities, as the term implies, started somewhere in development. Usually we think in childhood, but guess what? A lot of people don't get diagnosed until they're older. For example, lots of people who are adults have children or a family member with autism, and then they realize, oh, maybe I'm on the spectrum. And then they'll come to a practice like mine, and they will talk about the fact that they've always been a little different than other people. They have very specific things that they like or dislike. Maybe they have sensory processing difficulties. They're very particular about different scents or sensations. And then we do a few diagnostic tests and realize, yes, you are on the autism spectrum. But the spectrum is quite wide. You know that there are 3 stages for autism. And we no longer use the terms, well, some people still do, but low functioning or high functioning, or verbal versus nonverbal, because a person may be nonverbal, but quite intelligent. They just use speech in a different way. So they may be non-speaking, but still very verbal. And all of these different terms are coming about just within the last few decades, and definitely within the last, I would say 5 to 10 years. We're talking a lot more about neurodivergence in the public. Now, what's the difference between neurodivergence if it's not a developmental disability? So neurodivergence could be that you have ADHD or attention deficit disorder or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and you would be considered someone who's neurodivergent. That's not necessarily a developmental disability. It may not be a disability. Yes, it might have started throughout development when you were younger, but again, we wouldn't necessarily call it a disability for everyone. For some people, it's not a disability at all. I've had some people say, hey, it's my superpower. It helps me to be hyper-focused on certain things and kind of allow certain distractions and other things to kind of fade out of the background, while other people are kind of like Hammy from that TV show where every little light, every little thing just attracted him and got him off topic. I have usually, probably for the last 20 years at least, thought about autism and to some extent ADHD as basically being a different operating system, right? Different, not less, as Temple Grandin would say about autism. And then for ADHD, I tell people it's like some people are iPhones or function on the Apple iOS system, whereas other people focus or function on the Android system. Neither is better or worse, it's just different. And now we've got a way to have communication between both. But I don't know if you remember back in the day, like the 80s and 90s, where if you had an Apple device, for example, you couldn't even have conversations with anything that was Android. Now you can have conversations. So just like the science is advancing and culture is advancing and our knowledge and awareness are advancing, when a person says, hey, I'm neurodivergent, we don't automatically say, oh, they're an Apple, I want nothing to do with them, because we can't even have a conversation. No, it's more of a, okay, well, I know I just can't, put my phone next to your phone and have it automatically communicate, or put my phone next to your phone and have it automatically airdrop. I've got to go through 1 or 2 steps to translate your communication style or your communication information into my style, which is just the way that I think about it. Again, neither is better or worse. I have both Apple and Android devices, sort of, and I like them both for different reasons. There are some things that are incredibly savvy when it comes to Apple devices. And then there are some things that make me a little bit frustrated. I think it's the same thing if a person says, hey, I have ADHD, or I'm on the autism spectrum, or have some other concern. Initially, it might be a little difficult, but over time, again, you kind of get used to your picadillos, as people used to call them. Now, how about other types of neurodivergence? Basically, it just means that the way that your brain functions is not what we call neurotypical. We used to use the term normal, but really, what is normal? Like, really, what's normal? Um, I don't know if I know anybody that's completely 100% normal. And if that person was normal, who's making the definition of what normal is? So that's why we might say neurotypical, because that means the majority of population don't have ADHD. Majority of population aren't on the autism spectrum. The majority of population don't have cerebral palsy or MS or some other type of different ability or disability. So those are the kind of the main differences, at least the way I think about it, when it comes to neurodivergence and developmental disabilities. But guess what? In our office, we see both. And I get excited when I get to meet a person that works on a different operating system than I do, or thinks about things from a different perspective than I do, because I think differences matter and differences add to variety. If anybody's ever seen the old Robin Hood movie with Morgan Freeman, the little boy looks at Morgan Freeman, who's a Moor, and he said, "Did God paint you?" And he said, "What?" He said, "Did God paint me?" He says, "Well, I guess, yes, God did paint me." And he says, "Well, why?" And he says, "Well, because I believe that Allah likes variety." And I agree. I totally agree with that. Completely vibe with that part of the movie, as well as some other parts of the movie. But to stay on topic and not run away with Morgan Freeman and Kevin Costner and other things from Robin Hood, sticking with what we're talking about, I think we all could benefit from looking at others' perspectives and just kind of getting to know, why does a person think the way they think? Why do they look at these things the way that they're looking at them? Because that's what it's all about. Divergence, by definition, it means not meeting in the middle. It means parting of ways, right? There's diversity in the way that we think. There's diversity in the way that we look at things, our perspectives. And I can't think of a better way to be honest with you, than to want to learn and be interested in the way others think, the way others act, and the way others live. I mean, that's one of the main reasons that we want to travel, correct? When people travel, they're going to another culture, usually, and they're learning more about how people do things. I mean, even if you're just going from Virginia to West Virginia, quite different cultures when I think about that for certain parts. But there's a beauty and a wholeness in both. Going from California to Oregon or New Mexico to Minnesota, all of these are different cultures just within the United States. Not to mention, if I go from here to Europe or Asia or another country on the continent of Africa. So I want you to think about these things. Not only are we thinking about neurodivergence and the way that our brains operate, but today pledge to be divergent in the way that you think, in the way that you perceive others, and in the way that you decide to maybe even tackle a problem or two. How cool would that be? All right, well, I am Dr. Regina, and I hope you have listened to this, have taken this to heart, and that you will join me next month in the month of April, because we'll be talking about all things neurodivergence and developmental disabilities. We'll be talking a lot about autism, because April is Autism Awareness Month. And every single weekday, it is my hope to either post or go live so that we can share some insights with you, especially about some difficulties that people might run into when they realize that they are neurodivergent or they are dealing with a developmental disability. There are ups, there are downs, there are positives, and there are lows related to all of them. So let's talk about that. And yes, I do agree. I'm seeing some of the comments. You're very welcome for the information that I'm sharing. I hope to share more. Please leave in your comments anything that you'd like to hear more about. And truly, there is adventure and excitement in diversity. I completely 100% agree. All right. Well, it's been a pleasure chatting with you guys. And again, if there's something else that you want to hear, definitely put something in the comments. You can like and subscribe if you like. If you want to see some of the additional information that we're going to be posting along the way, would love to be able to share more with you all. But I really want to share things that are of importance to you. I know what I know, but I don't know what you know, and I don't know what you want to hear more about. So please share and let me know what it is that you'd like to learn more about. You all take care and have a very blessed day on purpose.